I exposed my wife's calculated plan to cheat with multiple men, used her best friend's evidence, and ended our marriage on my terms with brutal truth. So empty living with you. Maybe it is time to find someone better who can satisfy me and fill this void properly. She said it while folding laundry in our bedroom, not even bothering to look at me directly. I was standing in the doorway having just gotten home from work, and for a moment I wondered if I had heard her correctly. But the way she kept folding clothes with that satisfied little smirk told me everything I needed to know. This was not a cry for help or some desperate plea to fix our marriage. This was her testing the waters, seeing how I would react to her basically asking for permission to cheat. Perfect. I love your honesty, I said, my voice completely calm. She looked up then, probably expecting tears or begging or some pathetic attempt to win her back. Instead, I walked straight to the closet and pulled out 3 black trash bags from the cleaning supplies. She asked, "What are you doing?" And I could hear the first hint of nervousness creeping into her voice. I started with her dresser drawers, methodically emptying each one into the bags. Her fancy lingerie that she never wore for me anymore, her workout clothes, all of it went into the plastic bags with mechanical precision. "Stop," she said, rushing over and trying to grab clothes from my hands. "I can pack my own things if that is what you want." I kept working, completely ignoring her attempts to interfere. When she tried to pull a bag away from me, I simply moved to the next drawer. The bathroom was next. Toothbrush, makeup, all those expensive skincare products she was always buying. Everything went into the bags. She was getting more frantic now, following me around the room like a lost puppy. "You do not have to do this. We can talk about what I said." I was just feeling frustrated. I tied up the first bag and started on the second. Her shoes, her purses, the jewelry box her mother gave her. The wedding ring dish she kept on the nightstand went into. 20 minutes later, I carried both bags to the garage and set them down next to her car. She stood in the doorway watching me, and I could see the panic starting to set in. This was not going according to whatever script she had in her head. "Your honesty makes this so much easier," I said, dusting off my hands. "Now I do not have to hide what has been happening." Her face went from confused to worried. "What do you mean? Your best friend was a lot more loyal than you." The confusion deepened. "What are you talking about? She called me 7 days ago, told me all about your little plans, how you asked her for advice, about testing the waters with other men, how you wanted to know the best way to transition out of our marriage without looking like the bad guy." I watched her face go completely white. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She even helped me document everything, gave me tips on what to look for when you would most likely be active on those dating apps you downloaded. "Your best friend felt so guilty about keeping your secrets that she decided someone should know the truth." The shock lasted about 10 seconds before the rage kicked in. "That backstabbing witch," she started screaming. "How dare she? I trusted her with everything and she goes behind my back like some kind of snake." I could not help but laugh. "Listen to yourself. You are calling someone else a backstabber. The person who was planning to cheat on her husband is upset about loyalty." She was pacing now, her face red with fury. "I'm going to call her right now and tell her exactly what I think of her betrayal." "Good luck with that," I said. "I do not think she is particularly interested in hearing from cheaters anymore. Seems like she has higher standards for friendship than I realized." "This is not over," she snapped, stomping back toward the house. "Actually," I called after her, "it really is. Check your email in about 1 hour. You will find some documents that make everything official." 7 days earlier, I was sitting at my kitchen table eating leftover pizza when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my wife as best friend, which was unusual. She never called me directly. "Hey," I answered, wondering if something had happened to my wife. There was a long pause before she spoke. "We need to talk. Are you alone right now?" The serious tone in her voice immediately put me on alert. "Yeah, she is at her book club meeting." "What is going on?" Another pause. "This is really hard for me to say, but I think you deserve to know what is happening." I set down my pizza slice and gave her my full attention. "Know what?" She took a deep breath. "Your wife has been asking me for advice about something, and I cannot keep pretending like it is normal girlfriend talk anymore." My stomach started to sink, but I kept my voice steady. "What kind of advice?" "She has been talking about feeling unfulfilled in your marriage, but not in a way where she wants to work on things with you. She has been asking me how to explore other options without making herself look like the villain." I felt like someone had punched me in the gut, but I managed to keep listening. "Last week, she downloaded some dating apps. She showed me her profile and asked me to help her pick which photos made her look most approachable. She said she wanted to see what was out there before making any big decisions about your marriage. The betrayal hit me in waves, not just from my wife, but from the fact that this conversation was happening at all. How long has this been going on? About 3 weeks now. At first I thought she was just venting, like when married, people complain about their spouses but do not really mean it. But then she started getting specific about exit strategies. Exit strategies. She asked me if I thought she should have an affair first to make the divorce easier to justify, or if she should just leave and claim you two grew apart. She wanted to know which approach would make her look more sympathetic to your families and friends. I closed my eyes and tried to process what I was hearing. My wife of 8 years was treating our marriage like a business deal she wanted to get out of with minimal damage to her reputation. I have been losing sleep over this, she continued. I kept telling myself it was not my place to get involved, but then I realized that staying quiet makes me part of her plan, and I do not want to be part of something that is going to blindside you like this. Why are you telling me now? Because yesterday she asked me something that crossed a line I did not even know I had. She wanted to know if I would be willing to lie for her if you ever got suspicious. She wanted me to cover for her if she needed alibis for dates with other men. The audacity of it was almost impressive. She was recruiting her best friend to be an accomplice in destroying our marriage. I told her I was not comfortable with that, and she got angry with me. She said real friends support each other no matter what, and that I was being judgmental. That is when I realized she is not the person I thought she was. I appreciated her honesty, but I had to ask the obvious question. What made you decide to call me instead of just cutting ties with her? Because you are a decent guy who does not deserve to be played like this, and because I have watched her manipulate situations before, but never anything this cruel. She is planning to make you the bad guy in this story, and that is not right. I sat there for a moment, absorbing the full scope of what my wife was planning. The calculated nature of it was what stung the most. This was not a moment of weakness or a mistake driven by passion. This was a methodical campaign to end our marriage while preserving her image. What exactly has she told you about her timeline? She wants to have at least 2 or 3 dates lined up before she starts the conversation with you about being unhappy. She figures if she already has options, she will not feel trapped or desperate during the divorce process. So, she is not just planning to leave. She is planning to have her next relationship ready to go before she even tells me there is a problem with ours. That is exactly right, and she has been practicing different ways to bring it up with you. She has rehearsed this whole speech about feeling empty and needing to find herself. The pieces were falling into place now. All those late nights she claimed to be working on projects, the new clothes she had been buying, the way she had been picking fights with me over trivial things lately. Listen, she said, interrupting my thoughts. I know this is a lot to process, but there is something else you should know. She is meeting someone tomorrow night, a guy from one of those apps. She told me she is going to tell you she is having dinner with her cousin from out of town. I felt a strange calm settling over me. The uncertainty and confusion I had been feeling for weeks suddenly made perfect sense. I was not going crazy. My instincts had been right all along. Do you want to know where they are meeting? Yes, I said without hesitation. Tell me everything. She gave me the name of the restaurant, the time, even described the guy from his profile photos. Mid-30s, works in marketing, divorced with no kids. She said, your wife was excited because he seemed stable and financially secure. The clinical way she described my wife's dating criteria made my skin crawl. It was like listening to someone shop for a car. There is more, she continued. She has been taking screenshots of conversations with multiple guys and showing them to me like trophies. She is particularly interested in this one because he is already talking about wanting something serious, so she is not just looking for a fling. She wants a replacement husband lined up before she discards the current one. That is exactly how she is approaching this. She even said she learned from watching other divorced women make the mistake of leaving without having their next relationship secured first. I had to admire the strategic thinking even while it disgusted me. My wife was not just betraying me, she was treating betrayal like a business plan. Listen, she said, her voice getting quieter. I know this puts you in an impossible situation, but I want to help you protect yourself. She has been documenting things too. Taking photos of the house, making lists of assets, screenshot conversations where she thinks you have been difficult or unsupportive. She is building a case against me. Exactly. She is planning to paint herself as the victim of an unhappy marriage who had no choice but to seek happiness elsewhere. But the truth is, she never even tried to work on things with you. She just decided she wanted an upgrade and started shopping around. This revelation hit me harder than the affair itself. The affair I could have understood as a moment of weakness or a mistake, But this level of premeditation and manipulation was something else entirely. What do you think I should do? Document everything you can. Get evidence of her real intentions before she has a chance to spin the narrative she is counting on you being blindsided and reacting emotionally so she can use that against you later. The advice made perfect sense. If my wife was playing chess, I needed to stop playing checkers. I can help you, she offered. She still trusts me. So, she keeps telling me about her plans. I can let you know when she is going to make moves, so you are always one step ahead. Why would you do that for me? Because what she is doing is wrong. And I do not want to watch a good person get destroyed by someone who is supposed to love them. Plus, she has already threatened our friendship by expecting me to lie for her. She made this my business when she tried to make me an accomplice. Over the next 1 hour she filled in every detail of my wife's strategy. The dating apps she was using, the cover stories she had prepared, even the friend group she planned to turn against me, by spreading her version of our marriage problems first. She has been telling people that you have become distant and unaffected. She is laying groundwork to make it seem like you are the one who checked out of the marriage first. The gaslighting was impressive in its scope. She was not just planning to leave me. She was planning to rewrite the entire history of our relationship to justify her actions. But here is what she does not know. Her friend continued, I have been taking screenshots of our text conversations where she talks about her real plans. I have records of her asking me to help her create dating profiles while she was still wearing her wedding ring. You have been gathering evidence too. I started doing it after that conversation about lying for her. Something told me I might need proof of what really happened here, especially if she tries to drag me into the middle of it later. We spent another 30 minutes going over logistics. She would continue being my wife's confidant while secretly keeping me informed. I would start documenting my wife's behavior and activities without raising suspicion. We agreed on code words for text messages and established times when it was safe to call each other. One more thing she said before we hung up. Tomorrow night when she goes on that date, she is planning to come home and act completely normal with you. She might even be extra affectionate to throw you off the scent. Do not let her behavior confuse you about what is really happening. I thanked her for the warning and ended the call. Then I sat in my kitchen for a long time, staring at the leftover pizza and processing the fact that my marriage had been over for weeks without me knowing it. The next day I watched my wife get ready for her fake dinner with her fake cousin. She spent over 1 hour on her makeup and wore a dress I had not seen her wear for me in months. When she kissed me goodbye, I could smell her expensive perfume and wondered if she had practiced that performance in the mirror. Have fun with your cousin, I said, and she smiled like we were the happiest couple in the world. I should be back around 10 o'clock, she said. Do not wait up if you are tired. After she left, I went through her dresser drawers and found receipts for lingerie I had never seen. Hidden behind her jewelry box were printouts of restaurant reviews and a small notebook with what looked like dating advice written in her handwriting. My phone buzzed with a text from her friend. She just posted on Instagram that she is excited for girls' night out. Even her social media is part of the cover story. I screenshotted the post, added it to a folder I had created on my phone, and settled into wait. The evidence collection had officially begun. She came home at 11:30 that night, humming some song under her breath and carrying takeout from a restaurant I had never heard of. She was glowing in a way I had not seen in months, and it made my stomach turn. I asked from the couch, not looking up from my laptop, "How was dinner with your cousin?" "Oh, it was wonderful. We caught up on so much family drama. She brought me leftovers from this amazing Italian place near her hotel." I nodded and pretended to keep working while she headed to the bedroom. 20 minutes later, she came back wearing one of my old t-shirts and curled up next to me on the couch. She was more affectionate than she had been in weeks, running her fingers through my hair and asking about my day. The performance was flawless. If I had not known what I knew, I would have been thrilled by the sudden return of the woman I married. Instead, I felt sick watching her practice her deception in real time. Over the next few days, her friend kept me updated through carefully worded text messages. The first date had gone well. My wife was already planning a second meeting. She told her friend that the guy was everything she had hoped for, and that she felt guilty about not leaving me sooner. Meanwhile, at home, my wife was the picture of innocence. She cooked my favorite meals, suggested we watch movies together, and even brought up the idea of planning a weekend getaway. The gaslighting was so complete that I started to understand how people in my situation convince themselves they are imagining things. But I was not imagining the new password on her phone, or the way she angled the screen away from me when texting. I was not imagining the extra attention to her appearance, or the mysterious phone call she took in the other room. On Thursday, her friend called me during my lunch break with an urgent update. She is accelerating her timeline. She is planning to meet with 2 different guys this weekend. And she is already talking about which one she thinks has more long-term potential. 2 guys in 1 weekend. Saturday afternoon coffee date with the marketing guy from the first night. Sunday brunch with someone new she matched with yesterday. She showed me his profile and said he owns his own business, so she wants to evaluate her options before getting too invested in just one. The business-like approach to replacing me was almost impressive. She was conducting interviews for the position of new husband while still sharing a bed with the current one. There is something else. She has been asking me detailed questions about divorce law. She wants to know about asset division and whether she would be entitled to alimony. She is doing research like she is planning a hostile takeover. As she mentioned when she is planning to file, not exactly, but she did say something that bothered me. She has been calculating how long she needs to document problems in your marriage to make her case stronger. She thinks 6 months of recorded complaints would be ideal. 6 months of manufacturing evidence against me while secretly dating other men. The level of premeditation was staggering. I have an idea, I said. Can you suggest she document her complaints by writing them down? Maybe tell her that having a written record would be helpful for her lawyer later. You want me to encourage her to create evidence against herself? Think about it. If she is writing down fake complaints about her marriage while simultaneously documenting her affairs, we will have proof that the whole thing was calculated. Her own words will show that she was planning this deception while pretending to be a victim. She agreed to plant the suggestion, and by Friday evening, my wife was sitting at the kitchen table with a notebook, thoughtfully writing down her grievances against me. She was so absorbed in her creative writing project that she did not notice me taking photos of her from the hallway. That weekend, I watched her prepare for her dates with the same methodical care she used to put into planning our anniversaries. Saturday morning, she told me she was meeting a girlfriend for coffee and shopping. Sunday, she had plans to help her sister with some household project. Both times, her friend texted me locations and descriptions of who my wife was actually meeting. I drove by the coffee shop on Saturday and saw her laughing with the marketing guy. On Sunday, I watched from across the street as she shared brunch with her second prospect. The most surreal part was coming home to her detailed reports about her fictional activities. She told elaborate stories about conversations with girlfriends who had not been there and problems with her sister that did not exist. She was becoming a professional liar, and she was getting better at it every day. By Sunday night, I had photos, screenshots, receipts, and a digital trail that painted a complete picture of her double life. Her friend had forwarded me text messages where my wife compared her 2 weekend dates and discussed strategy for keeping both men interested while she made her final decision. She is leaning toward the business owner. Her friend texted me. She thinks he has better financial prospects, and she likes that he is already talking about wanting to settle down again. I stared at that message and realized my wife was not just cheating on me. She was conducting a calculated search for my replacement based on income potential and willingness to commit. I was not losing a wife. I was being terminated from a job I did not know I was bad at. The hardest part was maintaining the facade at home. She would come back from her dates energized and affectionate, probably from the thrill of her secret life. She would cuddle with me on the couch and talk about our future together while texting with other men on her phone. On Monday morning, I contacted a divorce attorney and made an appointment for that afternoon. I brought printed copies of everything I had collected and watched his eyebrows raise higher with each page. This is some of the most comprehensive documentation I have seen in a case like this. He said, she has essentially created a complete record of premeditated adultery and fraud. This changes everything about how we approach your divorce. I left his office with a clear plan and a timeline. The papers would be ready by Thursday. I would serve them to her on Friday after she returned from what I knew would be another date with the business owner. But first, I had 1 more week of playing the role of the oblivious husband while my wife continued her audition process for my replacement. Back in the present moment, my wife was still ranting about her backstabbing friend when I walked back into the house. She was pacing around the living room, phone in hand, frantically trying to call someone who clearly was not answering. She will not even pick up. How can she do this to me after everything we have been through together? I sat down in my recliner and watched her spiral. The irony was too perfect to interrupt. 20 years of friendship, down the drain because she could not mind her own business. She continued, her voice getting shriller with each word. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, she minded her business perfectly. She just decided that covering for cheaters was not her business anymore. I opened the photo gallery I prepared for this moment. Screenshots of dating app conversations, photos of her with different men, receipts from restaurants she had never been to with me. She stopped pacing when she saw me scrolling through the images. "What is that?" "This is what your loyal friend helped me collect over the past week. Every date, every lie, every strategy session you two had about the best way to destroy our marriage." I handed her my phone. Her face went white as she scrolled through months of evidence. The marketing guy from Olive Garden on Tuesday, the business owner from that place downtown on Thursday, the weekend coffee dates, the Sunday brunches, all of it. "Your friend was very thorough in helping me document your activities." She tried to hand the phone back, but I waved her away. "Keep scrolling, there is more." The screenshots of her text messages appeared next. Messages where she discussed her timeline for leaving me, her strategy for making herself look like the victim, her detailed financial analysis of which guy offered better long-term prospects. "You have been reading my private messages. Your friend forwarded them to me. Apparently, she did not appreciate being asked to provide alibis for your affairs. Something about not wanting to be an accomplice to fraud." My wife sank onto the couch, still staring at the phone. I could see her trying to process how completely she had been outmaneuvered. "This is illegal. You cannot use private conversations in court. Actually, according to my attorney, everything here is perfectly admissible, especially since you created most of this evidence yourself. That notebook you have been writing in, the one where you document all your fake complaints about our marriage while simultaneously planning your affairs, that is what lawyers call consciousness of guilt." She looked toward the kitchen table, where her complaint notebook was still sitting open. "You photographed my private thoughts. I photographed evidence of fraud. There is a difference. Your private thoughts would be personal feelings about our relationship. What you wrote down was a calculated plan to manufacture grounds for divorce while secretly auditioning my replacement." The fight went out of her completely. She set my phone down and stared at the floor. "How long have you known?" "Long enough to make sure I had everything I needed. Your friend called me exactly 7 days ago. Since then, I have been documenting your double life while you practiced your performance as the devoted wife." She looked up at me with something that might have been admiration if the situation were not so twisted. "You knew about everything and just let me keep going. I wanted to see how far you would take it. Turns out pretty far. 3 different men, detailed financial comparisons, a 6-month plan to manufacture evidence against me. You really committed to the role." The silence stretched between us for a long moment. "So what happens now?" "Now you get exactly what you asked for. Remember, you wanted to find someone better who could satisfy you and fill the void properly. Congratulations, you are free to pursue that dream." I stood up and walked to my desk, pulling out a manila envelope I prepared that morning. "Divorce papers," I said, tossing them on the coffee table in front of her. "Already filed, already processed. You have been officially served." She stared at the papers like they might explode. "My lawyer says this should be one of the fastest uncontested divorces he has ever handled, given how cooperative you have been in documenting your adultery. Very considerate of you to create such a clear paper trail." "But I never actually did anything," she said weakly. "Those were just dates. Dates you went on while married to me using money from our joint account while lying about your whereabouts and planning to commit adultery. In legal terms, that is called constructive abandonment and fraudulent behavior." I walked back to my chair and sat down. "The house is mine since you have been planning to leave anyway. Your car is in your name, so you can keep that. The joint accounts will be frozen tomorrow morning, but there is a cashier's check in that envelope for half of our current balance. Consider it a going-away present." She opened the envelope with shaking hands and found the check along with a detailed breakdown of asset division. "You planned this whole thing. I planned to protect myself once I learned what you were planning. The difference is my plan was a response to your betrayal. Your plan was the betrayal itself." She looked through the papers and I could see her calculating whether she had any moves left. "What if I fight this with what?" "The evidence shows you have been planning to leave for months while secretly dating other men. You documented your own fraud in writing. Your best friend testified against you. What exactly would you fight with?" The reality of her situation was finally sinking in. She had played her hand perfectly, except she had been playing against someone who could see all her cards. "You have until Friday to collect whatever I might have missed and find somewhere else to stay. After that, the locks get changed and any remaining belongings go to charity." She stood up slowly, the papers clutched in her hands. "I never meant for it to happen like this." "Yes, you did. This is exactly how you meant for it to happen. Except you planned to be the one controlling the timeline and narrative. The only thing that went wrong was that you trusted the wrong person with your secrets." She walked toward the door, then turned back. "What about us do not 8 years mean anything to you? They meant everything to me. That is why this hurts. But they obviously did not mean much to you, or you would not have been shopping for my replacement while pretending to be my wife." She left without another word, and I heard her car start in the driveway. I knew she would be back to collect more of her things, but the important conversation was over. My phone buzzed with a text from her former best friend. "How did it go?" I typed back exactly as planned. "Thank you for everything." The response came immediately. "You deserve to know the truth. Some lines should not be crossed, no matter how close the friendship." Friday came faster than I expected. My soon-to-be ex-wife had been staying at her sister Iz's place, sending increasingly desperate text messages about reconsidering everything and asking if we could work things out. I ignored them all. She showed up at exactly noon with her sister in a rental truck. I watched from the living room window as they loaded the remaining bags I had left on the porch. Her sister kept glancing toward the house, like she expected me to come out and cause a scene. Instead, I stayed inside and watched the final act of an 8-year marriage get loaded into a U-Haul. When they were done, my wife walked up to the front door and knocked. I opened it but did not invite her in. She asked, "Is this really it?" And I could see she had been crying. "This has been it for weeks. You just did not bother to tell me until I figured it out myself." She looked around at the house one more time, taking in the space where she had planned her betrayal, while I lived in blissful ignorance. "I am sorry," she said. "I know that does not fix anything, but I need you to know that I am sorry. Sorry you got caught or sorry you did it, both, I guess." I nodded. "That is probably the most honest thing you have said to me in months." Her sister honked the truck horn impatiently from the driveway. "I have to go," she said. "Good luck with your business owner. I hope he is everything you calculated him to be." She flinched at that, but did not deny it. After she left, I walked through the house and noticed how much more spacious it felt without her things cluttering every surface. For the first time in weeks, I could actually relax in my own home. That evening, I got a text from her former best friend asking if she could stop by. I have been meaning to thank her properly for her honesty, so I agreed. She arrived with a bottle of wine and a sheepish expression. "I was not sure if you would want to see me," she said. "I know this whole situation is complicated. You literally saved me from years of being manipulated and lied to. Why would not I want to see you?" We sat on my back deck with glasses of wine and talked about everything that had happened. It was the first genuine conversation I had had with another person in months. She told me that my ex-wife had tried calling her dozens of times over the past week, leaving increasingly angry voicemails about friendship and loyalty and betrayal. The final message had been particularly ugly, calling her every name in the book and threatening to tell everyone what kind of person she really was. "The funny thing is," she said laughing, "I am actually proud of what kind of person I turned out to be. I chose honesty over convenience, and I chose protecting an innocent person over protecting someone who was causing harm." We talked until after midnight about trust, relationships, and what it meant to have real integrity. She was funny and intelligent in ways I had never noticed when she was just my wife's friend sitting across from us at dinner parties. Over the next few weeks, we started meeting regularly for coffee, then dinners, then long walks around the neighborhood. There was no pressure, no agenda, just two people who had been through something difficult together and found they enjoyed each other as company. She told me she had always thought I was too good for my ex-wife, but had kept that opinion to herself out of loyalty to their friendship. Now that the friendship was over, she felt free to admit that she had watched me get taken for granted for years and had always wondered why I put up with it. I told her I had gotten so used to being criticized and dismissed that I had started to believe maybe I deserved it. Having someone see value in me again was like remembering what it felt like to breathe properly. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, she moved in with me. Not because we were rushing into anything, but because we discovered we were genuinely compatible in ways that surprised both of us. We shared similar values about honesty, loyalty, and treating people with basic respect. My ex-wife, meanwhile, had learned that dating while going through a messy divorce was not as appealing to her prospects as she had imagined. Both the marketing guy and the business owner had backed away once they realized she was still technically married when she had been dating them. Apparently, starting relationships with lies and deception was not as attractive to stable men as she had hoped. She had tried dating apps again, but found that being a freshly divorced woman in her 30s was not the advantageous position she had calculated it would be. Her sister mentioned to a mutual friend that she was struggling financially and emotionally, having burned bridges with most of her support system. I did not take any pleasure in her struggles, but I did not feel guilt about them either. She had made her choices with full awareness of the potential consequences. The fact that reality had not matched her projections was not my problem to solve. One evening, Exactly 6 months after I had packed her belongings into trash bags, the woman who had saved my marriage by ending it was cooking dinner in our kitchen while I graded papers at the dining room table. She looked over and smiled at me, and I realized I could not remember the last time I had felt genuinely appreciated in my own home. "You know," she said, stirring something that smelled incredible. "I never thank you properly for listening to me when I called that day. A lot of men would have shot the messenger." I put down my pen and looked at her. "You gave me the truth when everyone else was participating in a lie. That took courage and it saved me from years of being manipulated. If anything, I should be thanking you every day." She walked over and kissed my forehead. "Maybe we should just agree that we are both grateful and leave it at that." As I watched her go back to cooking our dinner in our house, I reflected on how completely my life had changed. I had lost a wife who had never really been committed to me and gained a partner who had proven her loyalty before we had even started dating. The woman who had planned to replace me with someone better had ended up being replaced by someone better herself. The difference was I had not had to plan or scheme or manipulate anyone to make it happen. I just had to recognize the value of honesty when it was offered to me. My phone buzzed with a text from my ex-wife for the first time in months. I was curious enough to read it. It said, "I hope you are happy." I looked around at my peaceful house, at the woman humming while she cooked for us, at the life I had built after escaping the lie I had been living. I texted back, "I am. I hope you find what you are looking for." Then I deleted her contact information and went to help with dinner. Our story has come to an end. If you have made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I am sure you will enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I will be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.